The evening sun painted the downtown plaza in shades of orange and gold as Kaisha set up her small Bluetooth speaker on the pavement. She was 17, though life had aged her in ways that didn't show on her face. Her sneakers were worn thin at the soles, held together with duct tape she'd carefully hidden on the sides. But when she moved, none of that mattered. When she danced, she was free. She pressed play and let the music fill the space around her. A few people walking by glanced her way, but most kept moving, their eyes fixed on their phones or the fancy restaurant across the street. Kaisha didn't mind. She wasn't dancing for them anyway. She danced because it was the one thing in her life that still made sense, the one thing that hadn't been taken away. The bass dropped, and Kaisha's body responded like it always did, fluid and precise. She'd taught herself everything by watching videos at the public library during the 2 hours of free computer time they gave her each day. Late at night, when the shelter's common room emptied out, she'd practice the moves until her muscles remembered them. Dancing was her escape from the hard cot she slept on, from the smell of industrial cleaner and too many bodies in one space, from watching her mother cough into tissues she couldn't afford to replace. A middle-aged woman stopped and dropped $1 in the small cardboard box Kaisha had placed near the speaker. "You're very talented," the woman said. But she was already walking away before Kaisha could say thank you. Across the plaza, expensive cars lined up at the valet stand outside Marcello's, a kind of restaurant where people spent more on one meal than Kaisha and her mom had for an entire week. She tried not to think about it, tried not to feel bitter. Bitterness wouldn't change anything, and it definitely wouldn't pay for her mother's medication. She was halfway through her routine when she noticed the black Mercedes pull up to the valet. The driver stepped out first, opening the rear door. Then she saw the wheelchair and the girl sitting in it. The girl looked about 14 or 15, with long brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore expensive clothes, the kind Kaisha used to wear before everything fell apart, before her own mother got sick and the medical bills started piling up faster than they could count. But it wasn't the girl's clothes that caught Kaisha's attention. It was her face. Even from a distance, Kaisha could see how empty her expression was, how she seemed to be looking at everything and nothing at the same time. Behind the wheelchair stood a tall man in a business suit, clearly the girl's father. He had that look successful people always had, like they carried the weight of important decisions everywhere they went. He was talking on his phone, one hand on the wheelchair handle, clearly ready to head inside, but the girl wasn't moving. She'd stopped, her attention fixed completely on Kaisha's dancing. Kaisha noticed, and something shifted inside her. She'd seen that look before, that hunger for something beautiful in a world that had gone gray. She'd seen it in her own mirror on the hardest days. Without thinking about it too much, she changed her routine, adding more flourishes, more joy, more of everything that made dance worth doing. The man ended his call and leaned down to say something to his daughter, probably asking if she was ready to go inside. But the girl shook her head, her eyes never leaving Kaisha. The man followed his daughter's gaze and paused, watching. Kaisha finished her song, breathing hard, and a few people clapped. The cardboard box now held maybe $5 in total, enough for a cheap dinner at the convenience store if she was lucky. She grabbed her water bottle and took a long drink, trying to catch her breath. That's when she saw the girl in the wheelchair rolling toward her, the father walking alongside, but letting his daughter lead. Kaisha's first instinct was to panic. Rich people made her nervous now. They looked at her differently than they used to, back when she'd been one of them, back when she'd had a home and a future that made sense. But when the girl got close enough for Kaisha to see her face clearly, all that nervousness disappeared. The girl's eyes were filled with something Kaisha recognized immediately: loneliness, deep, aching loneliness. You're amazing, the girl said, her voice soft but genuine. I've never seen anyone dance like that. Kaisha smiled, relaxing a little. Thank you. That means a lot. How long have you been dancing? Pretty much my whole life. But I got serious about it maybe 3 years ago. Kaisha didn't mention that 3 years ago was right before everything fell apart. Right before dancing became less of a hobby and more of a lifeline. The girl nodded, something sad flickering across her face. I used to dance too, before. The way she said, before, told Kaisha everything. Before the wheelchair. Before whatever happened that put her in it. Before her world changed completely. Kaisha made a decision then. One of those instant choices that she'd either regret or remember forever. She crouched down so she was at eye level with the girl. Want to dance with me? The girl's eyes went wide. What? I can't. Sure you can, Kaisha said, standing up and offering her hand. Dance isn't just about legs. It's about feeling the music, letting it move through you. Trust me? The girl looked up at her father, who seemed surprised but didn't object. Slowly, she took Kaisha's hand. Kaisha started her music again, something slower this time, with a steady beat. She began to move around the wheelchair, not treating it like an obstacle, but like part of the dance itself. She'd spin, then catch the girl's other hand, encouraging her to move her arms, to sway her upper body to the rhythm. Not at first. The girl was stiff, self-conscious. But Kaisha kept going, kept smiling, kept making eye contact that said, "You're doing great. Keep going." And gradually, something beautiful happened. The girl started to let go. Her movements became more fluid, more confident. She started adding her own style, moving her hands in ways Kaisha hadn't shown her, rolling her shoulders to the beat. And then she smiled. Really smiled, the kind that reaches all the way to your eyes and lights up your whole face. Kaisha's heart soared. This was why she danced. Not for the money in the cardboard box, not even for herself anymore. For moments like this, when movement became magic and two complete strangers could share something real. The father watched them with an expression Kaisha couldn't quite read. His phone rang twice, but he ignored it, completely focused on his daughter. Other people stopped too, forming a small circle around them. Some pulled out their phones to record, but Kaisha barely noticed. She was lost in the dance, in the pure joy radiating from the girl in the wheelchair. When the song ended, the girl was breathing hard and laughing, actually laughing. The crowd applauded. Someone whistled. Kaisha squeezed the girl's hand once before letting go. "Thank you," the girl whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks now. "Thank you so much." Kaisha felt her own eyes getting wet. "Anytime." "I mean that." The father stepped forward then, and Kaisha prepared herself for whatever was coming. Rich people could be unpredictable. They could be kind or cruel, generous or dismissive. She'd learned that the hard way. The man reached into his wallet and pulled out several bills. Kaisha's stomach tightened. Here it comes, she thought. The part where he pays her off, says something polite, and they disappear back into their world of expensive restaurants and comfortable lives. But what he said surprised her. "I'd like to pay you for your time, but I have a feeling that's not what this was about." Kaisha glanced at the girl, who was still wiping tears from her face, but smiling wider than probably anyone had seen her smile in a long time. "No, sir," Kaisha said quietly. "She gave me something way more valuable than money." The man looked at her for a long moment, really looked at her, like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. "What's your name?" "Kaisha." "I'm David," he said, extending his hand. Kaisha shook it, noticing how firm his grip was, how his hands were soft in a way that told her he didn't do manual labor. "And this is my daughter, Lily." Lily waved, still glowing from the dance. "Dad, can we stay a little longer, please?" David checked his watch, and Kaisha could tell he was the kind of man who had schedules and appointments and places to be. But then he looked at his daughter's face again, and something in his expression softened. "Sure, sweetheart. We can stay." Lily rolled her wheelchair closer to Kaisha. "Where did you learn to dance like that? Do you go to a special school or something?" Kaisha hesitated. This was always the hard part, deciding how much truth to share with strangers. But something about Lily's open, honest face made her want to be real. "I taught myself mostly. YouTube videos at the public library. Practice anywhere I can find space." "The library?" Lily's eyebrows went up. "Don't you have internet at home?" The question hung in the air, innocent but loaded. Kaisha saw David shift uncomfortably, like he'd suddenly realized something. She could have lied, could have made up some story about preferring the library's quiet atmosphere. But she was tired of lying, tired of pretending. "I don't really have a home right now," Kaisha said, keeping her voice steady. "Me and my mom were staying at the shelter on 5th Street. They have rules about phone use and stuff. So yeah, the library works better." Lily's face fell. "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ... "It's okay," Kaisha said quickly. "You didn't know. It's not like I go around advertising it, you know." David was quiet, but Kaisha could practically see the wheels turning in his head. She'd seen that look before, that mixture of pity and discomfort that people got when they realized they were talking to someone homeless. It usually came right before they made an excuse and left. But David surprised her again. "How long have you been dancing out here?" "About 6 months. Before that, I had other jobs. But this lets me stay close to the shelter, be available if my mom needs me. She's not doing too great health-wise. What's wrong with her?" Lily asked, and David put a gentle hand on her shoulder, probably to warn her about asking too many personal questions. But Kaisha didn't mind. There was something about these two that felt safe. "Lupus. It's this autoimmune thing that makes her body attack itself, basically. She needs medication, but without insurance." Kaisha shrugged, leaving the rest unsaid. "That's not fair," Lily said, her voice fierce. "That's not fair at all." "No," Kaisha agreed. "It's really not. But life isn't always fair, right? I mean, you probably know that better than most." Lily looked down at her wheelchair, then back up at Kaisha. "Car accident. 2 years ago. Drunk driver ran a red light, hit us head-on. My mom didn't make it. I got this." She gestured to her legs. The words hit Kaisha like a physical blow. Here she'd been feeling sorry for herself, and this girl had lost her mother and her ability to walk in one horrible moment. "Lily, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. How could you?" Lily said with a sad smile. "We just met. But that's kind of why today was so special. I haven't danced since before the accident. I haven't even wanted to. Everything just felt pointless, you know? But when I watched you dancing, I don't know, something woke up inside me. And when you asked me to dance with you, you didn't treat me like I was broken. You just made me part of it, like the wheelchair was just another thing, not the only thing." Kaisha felt tears threatening again. "You're not broken. You're just moving through the world differently now. The music doesn't care how you move, only that you feel it." David cleared his throat, and when Kaisha looked at him, she saw his eyes were wet too. "Kaisha, would you be willing to exchange phone numbers with Lily? I know this is unusual, but I haven't seen her this happy in 2 years. I think you two could be good for each other." Kaisha bit her lip. "I don't actually have a phone right now. Had to sell it a few months back. But I have an email address I can check at the library." "I have a better idea," David said. "What if I gave you a phone? Just a basic one. Prepaid, nothing fancy. That way you girls can stay in touch. And honestly, everyone should have a phone for emergencies. Pride made Kaisha want to refuse. She'd been refusing charity for months now, determined to make it on her own, to not be a burden to anyone. But then she looked at Lily's hopeful face, and she thought about how lonely she'd been, how isolated the shelter could feel even surrounded by other people. "Okay," she said softly, "but only if you let me earn it somehow. I could teach Lily more about dancing, if she wants, or help with anything else. I'm a fast learner." David smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "I think we can work something out." They spent the next hour sitting at a bench in the plaza, just talking. Lily told stories about physical therapy, about the therapists who pushed too hard and the ones who didn't push enough. She talked about school, how her friends had slowly drifted away because they didn't know how to act around her anymore, how she'd become invisible in a way she never was before. Kaisha shared her own stories, carefully edited to keep from being too depressing. She talked about the shelter, about the old man named Jerome, who played chess with anyone who'd sit down with him, about the single mother with 3 kids, who always saved extra bread from dinner for Kaisha because she said Kaisha was too skinny, about the small kindnesses that made hard days bearable. She talked about her mom, how she used to be a nurse before getting sick, how she still tried to help other people at the shelter, even when she could barely get out of bed herself, how Kaisha had been accepted to a performing arts high school with a scholarship before everything fell apart, how she'd had to give it up to work and help with bills. "Why can't you go back?" Lily asked. "If you had a scholarship?" "Timing mostly. The scholarship was for last year. And now, even with a scholarship, there are other costs. Uniforms, supplies, transportation. Plus I need to work, need to be available for my mom. It just doesn't fit together anymore." David had been quiet for a while, just listening, but Kaisha could tell he was processing everything. She wondered what he was thinking. This successful man with his expensive suit and his Mercedes and his daughter who needed him. Finally, he stood up. "It's getting late, and we should let you get back." "But Kaisha, I'm serious about the phone. I'll have one delivered to the shelter tomorrow, okay? And I'd like you to think about something. Lily needs inspiration, needs someone who understands that life can be hard, but still finds reasons to dance. Would you be willing to spend time with her? I'll pay you for your time, and I mean it as a job, not charity. Lily needs a friend, and I think you do too." Kaisha looked at Lily, who was nodding eagerly, and felt something warm spread through her chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the relief of human connection after so many months of feeling alone. "I'd like that," she said. "I'd really like that." As they exchanged email addresses and David wrote down his phone number for her to use at the shelter, Kaisha felt the weight on her shoulders lift just a little. She didn't know what would come of this strange meeting, this unexpected friendship. But for the first time in months, she felt like maybe things could get better. She watched them leave, Lily turning back to wave 3 times before they got to the car. And when Kaisha packed up her speaker and counted the money in her box, $27 now, thanks to the crowd that had watched them dance. She felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. She felt like she mattered. True to his word. David had a phone delivered to the shelter the next morning. Nothing fancy, but it worked, and it had 6 months of service already paid for. The shelter staff brought it to Kaisha during breakfast, looking confused about why someone was sending her packages. Kaisha held the small box like it was made of glass, hardly believing it was real. The first text came through within minutes of her turning it on. "It's Lily. Is this working? Can you see this? Dad helped me set it up." Kaisha smiled and typed back slowly, still getting used to the phone's keyboard. "I can see it. Thank you. Tell your dad I said thank you too. He says you're welcome." Also, can you come over this weekend? Dad wants to talk to you about something. And I want to show you my old dance videos from before. That weekend turned into the first of many visits to the Harrison house. The first time Kaisha saw it, she had to remind herself to close her mouth. It wasn't just big, it was massive. The kind of house she'd only seen in movies. The driveway alone was bigger than the entire shelter common room got. Her mom had been worried about her going. "Baby, be careful," she'd said that morning, her voice weak from another bad night. "Rich people aren't always what they seem." "I know, Mama, but Lily's different. And David, he seems genuine." "I'll be careful, I promise." Now, standing at the front door, Kaisha wondered if her mom was right to worry. But then Lily opened the door herself. Her face lit up with excitement, and all the worry melted away. "You came. Come in, come in. I've been waiting all morning." The inside of the house was even more impressive than the outside. High ceilings, fancy furniture, artwork that probably cost more than Kaisha would make in her entire lifetime. But Lily didn't seem to notice any of it. She just wheeled through the rooms like they were normal, leading Kaisha to what she called the family room. David was there, dressed more casually than Kaisha had seen him before. Jeans and a sweater instead of the business suit. He looked more relaxed, more like a regular dad. "Kaisha, glad you could make it. I hope the phone is working okay?" "It's perfect, thank you." "Really, you didn't have to do that." "I wanted to," he said simply. "Can I get you something to drink? Water, juice, soda?" They spent the afternoon in a way Kaisha never expected. Lily showed her old videos of herself, dancing at recitals, ballet performances, jazz competitions. In the videos, she was graceful and confident, spinning across stages like it was the easiest thing in the world. Kaisha could see the pain in Lily's eyes as they watched, but also something else. A spark of something that wasn't quite ready to die. "You were amazing," Kaisha said softly. "Were," Lily repeated. "That's the word, isn't it?" "Were? Could be again," Kaisha countered. "Just different." "Different doesn't mean worse." David had been quiet, sitting in the corner working on his laptop. But Kaisha noticed he was watching them more than he was watching his screen. After a while, he closed the laptop and leaned forward. "Kaisha, can I ask you something personal?" Her guard went up automatically. "Okay, your mom's condition. Has she seen a specialist? Is she getting proper treatment?" Kaisha felt her cheeks burn. "She sees doctors at the free clinic when they have appointments available. They do what they can, but there's only so much they can do without insurance, without being able to afford the medications she really needs. What if I told you I wanted to help with that?" "I'd say I can't accept charity," Kaisha said, the words coming out sharper than she intended. "I'm sorry. I don't mean to sound ungrateful. You've already done so much with the phone. But I can't take money from you. What if it wasn't charity?" David asked. "What if there was a way for you to earn it?" Kaisha frowned. "I don't understand." David glanced at Lily, who was watching this exchange with wide eyes. "I've been doing some research this past week about adaptive dance programs, about ways to help people like Lily reconnect with movement and art. There's not much out there, not really. Most programs are either too clinical, focused only on therapy, or they're too exclusive, only accepting certain types of disabilities. But what you did with Lily that day in the plaza, that was something special. You didn't treat her disability like the main thing. You just danced with her. Because that's all it was," Kaisha said. "Just dancing." "Exactly. And that's what Lily needs. What a lot of kids like Lily need." David stood up and started pacing, the way people do when they're excited about an idea. "I've been thinking about starting something. A foundation, maybe, or a program. Something that helps kids who've lost confidence, who feel like they've lost their identity, because of injury or disability. And I want you to be part of it. Kaisha's head was spinning. Me? But I'm nobody. I'm just a homeless kid who dances for spare change. You're a talented dancer who sees people for who they are, not what they've lost, David corrected. That's rare, Kaisha. That's valuable. And I think you could help Lily and kids like her in ways that professional therapists haven't been able to. Dad wants to hire you, Lily jumped in, unable to contain herself any longer. To work with me, to help develop a program. And he wants to help your mom, too. Please say yes. Please. Kaisha looked between them, feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet, David said. Think about it. But there's something else I need to tell you. I had my assistant do some background research. I hope you don't think that's invasive, but I needed to understand your situation better. Kaisha stiffened. What kind of research? The legal kind, nothing creepy, David assured her. I found out about your scholarship to the Riverside Performing Arts Academy, about how you had to turn it down because of your mom's illness. Kaisha felt tears prick her eyes. She hadn't talked about that with anyone, hadn't even let herself think about it most days. It hurt too much. That scholarship was for last year, she said quietly. It's gone now. Maybe not, David said. I have some connections on their board. If you were interested, I might be able to help reopen that door. But there's a condition. What condition? You have to want it. Not for me, not for your mom, but for yourself. And you have to commit to working with Lily, to helping me develop this program I'm talking about. It won't be charity, Kaisha. It'll be a job. A real job with real expectations. Kaisha's mind was racing. A job, school, a chance to dance for real, not just for survival. It seemed too good to be true, and her experience had taught her that things that seemed too good to be true usually were. Why? She asked. Why are you doing this? You don't even know me. David sat back down, and when he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. Because you gave my daughter something I couldn't give her with all my money and all my resources. You gave her hope. You reminded her that she could still be joyful, still be herself, even after everything she's lost. That's not something you can buy, Kaisha. That's not something you can manufacture. That's human connection, human compassion. And in my experience, that's the rarest and most valuable thing in the world. Lily reached over and took Kaisha's hand. You helped me. Let us help you, please. Kaisha wiped her eyes, not caring anymore about trying to look tough or independent. Can I think about it? And talk to my mom? Of course, David said. Take all the time you need. But Kaisha, I want you to know something. I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing it because I recognize talent and heart when I see it. You have both. Later that evening, as David drove Kaisha back to the shelter in his Mercedes, she stared out the window at the city passing by. The same streets looked different somehow, like the world had shifted a few degrees while she wasn't looking. David? She said as they pulled up to the shelter. Double quotes, yes? Thank you for seeing me. Not just the homeless part, but the real me. He smiled. Thank you for seeing Lily the same way. You two are good for each other. As Kaisha walked back into the shelter, past the security desk and the tired faces in the common room, she felt different. Lighter somehow. She found her mom in their small room, resting on the bottom bunk they shared. Mama, she said softly, we need to talk. Something happened today. Something that might change everything. Her mother opened her eyes and saw the expression on Kaisha's face. Good something or bad something? I think good, Kaisha said, climbing onto the bunk next to her. I really think good. And for the first time in 2 years. She let herself believe it. Keisha, and her mom talked late into the night. Their voices hushed so they wouldn't disturb the other families in the shelter. Her mom, Patricia, listened to everything, asking questions, poking holes in the story the way any protective mother would. "Baby, I just want to make sure this man isn't expecting something in return," Patricia said, her eyes serious despite how tired she looked. "Rich men don't usually help people like us without wanting something." "I know, Mama. I've been thinking the same thing. But Lily, she's real. Her pain is real. And I don't think David is trying to trick us. I think he's just a dad who wants to help his daughter, and maybe he sees helping us as part of that." Patricia was quiet for a long moment. "What does your gut tell you?" Keisha thought about it, really thought about it. "My gut says this is real, that it's okay to trust them, that maybe, just maybe, something good can happen to us." "Then let's take the meeting," Patricia said. "But we go in with our eyes open, okay? We don't sign anything without reading it. We don't promise anything we can't deliver." 3 days later, they sat in David's home office, both of them dressed in the best clothes they had, which wasn't saying much. Patricia's hands shook slightly, whether from nerves or her illness. Keisha couldn't tell. Probably both. David had asked them to come alone, without Lily, saying he wanted to discuss everything properly first. The office was lined with bookshelves and had a massive desk that probably cost more than every piece of furniture Keisha had ever owned combined. "Thank you both for coming," David said, gesturing to the comfortable chairs across from his desk. "I know this situation is unusual, and I want to be completely transparent about what I'm proposing." Patricia leaned forward slightly. "I appreciate that, Mr. Harrison. Keisha told me about your offer, but I'd like to hear it directly from you." David nodded, respect clear in his expression. "Of course. Let me start by telling you what I've learned over the past 2 weeks. After Lily's accident, I threw every resource I had at her recovery. The best doctors, the best therapists, the best equipment money could buy. And physically, she's doing well. She's strong, she's healthy. But emotionally, she was dying. No amount of money could fix that." He paused, and Keisha saw real pain in his eyes. "I was losing my daughter to grief and depression, and I didn't know how to reach her. Then one evening, a homeless girl dancing in a plaza did what I couldn't do with all my wealth and connections. She reminded Lily that joy still exists in the world, that she could still be part of that joy." Patricia's expression softened slightly, but she remained cautious. "Keisha has a gift for seeing people. She always has." "She does," David agreed. "And that's exactly why I want to do this. I've spent the last 2 weeks working with lawyers, accountants, and education specialists to put together a proposal. Not charity, but opportunity. Real opportunity that requires real work and real commitment." He pulled out a folder and opened it on the desk. "I want to start a foundation focused on helping young people who've experienced trauma, disability, or major life changes reconnect with art and movement. I'm calling it the New Beginnings Foundation. The goal is to create programs that aren't just about physical therapy, but about rediscovering identity and joy." Keisha felt her heart start to race. This was bigger than she'd imagined. To run something like this properly, I need people who understand both sides of the struggle. People who know what it's like to lose everything and still find reasons to keep going. David looked directly at Patricia. "Mrs. Johnson, I'd like to offer you a position as the Foundation's Community Outreach Director." Patricia blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "It's a real position with a real salary. $60,000 a year to start, with full health benefits that include coverage for your lupus treatment. Your job would be to connect with community organizations, shelters, schools, and families, to help us find the kids who need these programs and make sure they know about them. Your experience, both as a former nurse and as someone who's navigated homelessness and chronic illness, makes you uniquely qualified. Kaisha watched her mother's face cycle through disbelief, hope, and fear. Mr. Harrison, I don't have a college degree. I don't have recent work experience. I don't even have a fixed address. You have something more valuable than a degree, David said. You have lived experience, and genuine compassion. And as for the address situation, that brings me to the second part of the proposal. He pulled out another document. Part of your employment package includes housing. I own a small apartment building about 3 miles from here. One of the 2-bedroom units is currently vacant. It's yours, part of your compensation, for as long as you work for the foundation. Patricia's hands flew to her mouth. Kaisha felt tears sliding down her own cheeks. But there's more, David continued, turning to Kaisha now. I spoke with the director at Riverside Performing Arts Academy. They've agreed to reinstate your scholarship for the spring semester, which starts in 6 weeks. Full tuition, just like before. But the other costs, Kaisha started. The supplies, covered, David interrupted gently. Because you're also being hired by the foundation. Your title is Youth Program Developer and Lead Instructor. You'll work with Lily 3 times a week, developing an adaptive dance curriculum. You'll also help train other instructors and participate in community outreach events. 20 hours a week during the school year, full-time in the summer. $25 an hour. Kaisha couldn't speak. The numbers were spinning in her head. That was more money than she'd ever made. Doing something she actually loved. Patricia found her voice first, though it trembled. Why? I need to understand why you're doing this. What do you really want from us? David leaned back in his chair, and when he spoke, his voice was thick with emotion. What do I want? I want my daughter to laugh again, to feel like her life has purpose. I want to build something that actually helps people, instead of just making money. And I want to do it with people who understand what struggle means, who won't lose sight of why this matters. He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at his perfectly manicured lawn. I built a tech company from nothing and sold it for more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I thought that was success. But my wife died, my daughter was injured, and I realized that none of that money could protect us from pain. None of it could bring back what we'd lost. He turned back to face them. Then I watched Kaisha dance with Lily, not because she had to, not because she was getting paid, but because she saw another person hurting and wanted to help. That's the kind of success that actually matters. That's what I want to be part of. Patricia was crying now, quiet tears that she didn't bother to wipe away. If we do this, if we accept, I need you to understand something. My daughter is the most important thing in my world. I won't let anyone hurt her or take advantage of her, no matter how much money is involved. I wouldn't expect anything less, David said. And I hope you'll extend the same protection to Lily. She needs a friend, needs a mentor, needs someone who treats her like a person and not like a victim or a patient. I can do that, Kaisha said, her voice stronger than she felt. I want to do that. David pulled out one more document. This is a 6-month contract. If at any point in those 6 months either of you feels uncomfortable or wants to stop, you can walk away, no questions asked. Your apartment lease will continue for a full year regardless. And Patricia, you'll receive 3 months of severance pay. I want you to feel safe trying this. Patricia reached for the contract with shaking hands, reading through it slowly. Kaisha knew her mom was looking for catches, for hidden clauses, for anything that seemed too good to be true. After what felt like forever, Patricia looked up. This all seems legitimate. More than fair, actually. It is, David assured her. I had it reviewed by an employment lawyer to make sure everything was above board. You should have your own lawyer look at it too if you want. I'll pay for that. Patricia and Kaisha looked at each other, one of those long mother-daughter looks that communicated everything without words. All the years of struggle, all the nights of worry, all the dreams they'd had to put aside. And now this impossible, incredible opportunity. When would we start? Patricia asked. David smiled, really smiled, for the first time since they'd entered the office. The apartment is ready now. We can have you moved in this weekend if you want. Patricia, you'd start the following Monday. Kaisha, we can begin your work with Lily right away. And I'll help you get registered at Riverside for the spring semester. We need to think about it, Patricia said, but Kaisha could hear the yes already forming in her mother's voice. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Kaisha knew they didn't need more time. They'd been waiting for a break like this for 2 years, maybe their whole lives. Sometimes you just had to trust that good things could happen, even when life had taught you otherwise. Actually, Patricia said, squeezing Kaisha's hand, I think we've thought enough. If you're serious about this, if this is real, then yes. We accept. David's smile grew wider. It's real. I promise you, it's real. And somehow, sitting in that expensive office with contracts spread across the desk and tears on everyone's faces, Kaisha knew he was telling the truth. This was real. This was happening. Their lives were about to change in ways they'd stopped letting themselves imagine. She thought about Lily, waiting somewhere in this big house to hear the news. She thought about dancing, not just for survival anymore, but for purpose. She thought about her mom getting healthy again, about having a place to call home. Thank you, Kaisha whispered. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you, David replied, for reminding me what actually matters. 8 months later, Kaisha stood backstage at the community center, peeking through the curtain at the crowd gathering in the auditorium. Her heart was pounding, but it was the good kind of nervous, the kind that came with excitement rather than fear. You okay? Lily rolled up beside her, looking beautiful in her performance outfit. Her hair was styled in an elegant bun, and her makeup was perfect. But more than that, she was glowing with confidence. I'm good, Kaisha said, squeezing Lily's shoulder. Just can't believe how many people showed up. It's a full house, Lily said with a grin. Dad said they had to turn people away at the door. Everyone wants to see what the New Beginnings Foundation has been up to. Kaisha smiled, thinking about how much had changed since that day in the plaza. The foundation had grown faster than any of them expected. What started as an idea to help Lily had turned into something that was helping dozens of kids across the city. The apartment David had provided turned out to be in a nice neighborhood with good schools and a park nearby. Kaisha and her mom had cried the first night they slept there, overwhelmed by the simple luxury of having their own space, their own beds, their own kitchen. Patricia's health had improved dramatically once she started getting proper treatment. She still had bad days, but they were fewer and farther between now. More than that, Patricia had found her calling. Turned out she was incredible at community outreach. She knew exactly how to talk to families in crisis because she'd been there herself. She knew which questions to ask, how to offer help without making people feel small. In 8 months, she'd connected the foundation with 12 different shelters, 6 community centers, and countless families who needed support. KEISHA had started at Riverside Performing Arts Academy in January, terrified that she'd be behind everyone else. But her teachers quickly realized she had raw talent that just needed refinement. She'd thrown herself into her classes, soaking up everything they taught her. Ballet, modern dance, choreography, even some basic teaching methods. And 3 times a week, she worked with Lily. Those sessions had become the highlight of both their weeks. At first, they'd worked on basic movements, building Lily's confidence and strength. But Lily was a quick learner, and more determined than Kaisha had expected. She pushed herself hard, sometimes too hard, and Kaisha had to remind her that progress wasn't a race. Now, Lily could do things with her wheelchair that seemed impossible. Spins, controlled movements, even some lifts with the help of dance partners. She'd created her own style, something beautiful and unique that honored both her abilities and her limitations. But Lily wasn't the only one. The foundation had started accepting other kids, other teenagers who'd experienced trauma or disability, or just felt lost and disconnected from the world. There was Marcus, a 15-year-old who'd lost his hearing in an accident and thought he could never enjoy music again until they introduced him to dance through vibrations and visual cues. There was Ayesha, who'd spent 2 years in foster care and used dance to express feelings she couldn't put into words. There was Tommy, who'd been in a house fire and had severe scarring on his arms and legs, who learned through dance that his body could still create beauty. Each of them had their own story, their own pain, their own journey. And somehow, through movement and music and connection, they were all finding their way forward. 5 minutes, called the stage manager, and Kaisha felt her stomach flip. Tonight's performance was a big deal. It was the Foundation's first public showcase, a chance to show the community what they'd been building. Local news was there, some city council members, potential donors, and most importantly, all the families of the kids in the program. David appeared backstage, looking nervous himself. "Everyone ready?" "As ready as we'll ever be," Kaisha said. He pulled her aside for a moment. "I want you to know how proud I am of you. Both of you," he added, including Lily. "You've built something really special here." "We all did," Kaisha corrected. "This was never just about me or Lily. It's about everyone." "That's exactly why it works," David said. "Now go show them what you've got." The lights dimmed and Kaisha took her position on stage with Lily beside her. The other kids were scattered around them, each in their starting positions. The music started, a piece Kaisha had spent weeks choreographing specifically for this group, for their unique mix of abilities and styles. What happened over the next 12 minutes was magic. Pure, unexpected magic. The routine wasn't perfect. Tommy missed a cue, and one of the wheelchair spins went a bit wobbly, but that wasn't the point. The point was the joy on their faces, the way they moved together like a real ensemble, the way the audience could see that these kids weren't defined by what they'd lost, but by what they were creating. Kaisha danced with all of them, moving between partners, connecting them to each other and to the rhythm. She caught Lily's eye during one sequence, and they both smiled, remembering that first day in the plaza when this all began. When the music ended and they held their final pose, the auditorium erupted. People weren't just clapping. They were on their feet, cheering, some crying. Kaisha looked out and saw her mom in the front row, tears streaming down her face, hands pressed to her heart. Next to her sat Jerome from the shelter, the old chess player who'd become like a grandfather to Kaisha. Wearing his best suit and beaming with pride, they took their bows, and Kaisha stepped forward to the microphone. She hadn't prepared a speech, but suddenly the words were just there. 8 months ago, I was dancing in a plaza for spare change, she said, her voice shaking a little. I was homeless, scared, and honestly, I'd pretty much given up on dreams. Then I met a girl in a wheelchair who looked as lost as I felt, and something clicked. We danced together, right there on the pavement, and for a few minutes, neither of us was broken or lost or scared. We were just two people moving to music. She gestured to Lily. This is Lily. She lost her mom and her ability to walk in one horrible moment. I lost my home and watched my mom get sicker every day. We shouldn't have had anything in common. But we both knew what it felt like to be invisible, to feel like the best parts of us were gone forever. Kaisha looked at the other kids on stage. And then we found these amazing people, each of them carrying their own weight, their own stories, their own pain. And together, we learned something important. We learned that you don't have to be whole to be beautiful. You don't have to be perfect to create something meaningful. You just have to show up and be willing to move, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. The New Beginnings Foundation isn't about fixing people, Kaisha continued. It's about reminding them that they were never broken in the first place. It's about creating space where everyone belongs, where everyone's movement matters, where everyone gets to be part of something bigger than themselves. She turned to look at David, who was watching from the side of the stage. Mr. Harrison gave us this opportunity. But what he really gave us was something simpler and more powerful. He saw us, really saw us. Not the homeless girl, or the disabled daughter, or the traumatized kids. He saw people with value, with gifts to share, with something to offer the world. Kaisha's voice broke a little. That's all any of us really want, isn't it? To be seen, to matter, to know that our story isn't over just because it got hard. She stepped back from the microphone and took Lily's hand. The other kids gathered around them, forming a tight circle on stage. They stood there together, a group of young people who'd found each other in the mess of life and decided to create something beautiful anyway. The applause started again, even louder this time. But Kaisha wasn't focused on that. She was looking at her mom, at David, at Lily, at all the kids who'd become like family to her. She was thinking about that day in the plaza, how she'd been dancing for survival and somehow ended up dancing for purpose. Later, after the performance, after the congratulations and the photos and the interviews with the local news, Kaisha found herself back in the plaza where it all started. Lily had wanted to come, and David had driven them both there in the Mercedes that didn't seem quite so intimidating anymore. This is where it happened, Lily said softly, looking around. This is where you changed my life. We changed each other's lives, Kaisha corrected, crouching down beside Lily's wheelchair. I was just as lost as you were. Maybe that's why it worked, Lily said. We didn't try to fix each other. We just danced. David stood a little distance away, giving them space but smiling as he watched them. He pulled out his phone and took a picture, capturing the moment. Two young women in the plaza at sunset. One in a wheelchair, one kneeling beside her, both looking at each other like they held the secrets to the universe. And maybe they did, Kaisha thought. Maybe the secret was just this, that kindness creates ripples, that connection heals, that sometimes the people who seem like they have nothing to give are the ones who give the most. She stood up and held out her hand to Lily. Want to dance? Lily laughed. Always. And there, in the same plaza where a homeless girl once danced for spare change, where a billionaire's daughter once watched from her wheelchair with empty eyes, they danced again. This time not because they had to, not because they were trying to heal or prove anything. They danced simply because they could, because they had each other, because the music was playing and their hearts were full, and life, despite everything, had turned out to be pretty incredible after all.